Frame.com. Welcome back. You're listening to the Cindy Laverty Show on CRN Digital Talk Radio. Thanks for joining me. My guest today is Marcelle Pick, and we are talking about her fascinating book and really important book, Are You Tired and Wired? And it's your proven 30-day program for overcoming adrenal fatigue and feeling fantastic again. So go out and get this book. Marcelle, thanks for being with me.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Okay, so no one really knows what adrenal fatigue is. You just rattled off a whole bunch of symptoms before we went to break. And there's even more.
There are even more. When people feel exhausted and there's there's nothing medically that we can find. The thyroid is normal. They're not anemic. There's nothing in their blood work that really tells them that's the cause. Oftentimes it's adrenal issues. When people are starting to gain weight, no matter what they do, they haven't changed their lifestyle very much, they start to gain weight around their middle and their abdomen, that's oftentimes adrenals. When they start noticing that they have autoimmune issues they never had before, and they've had tremendous amount of stress beforehand, that oftentimes can be related to adrenals as well. And when hormones are going up and down like a yo-yo, so often it's related to the adrenals because the body's not meant to have ongoing stress. And when we have that, what happens then is that there's huge physiological symptoms that come with it.
Okay, so in your book, you talk about how there is this huge disconnect between the medical world and discovering what's really wrong with you, but you give people a way to sort of self-diagnose what could be wrong.
I do. And the reason that I actually wrote this book is primarily because so many women were coming to see me that had unbelievable fatigue. They'd been many different places and were told, you're 40, what do you expect? You're going to be more tired.
I am so sick of that is the answer for everything.
I know. Well, you're 60, you can just expect to slow down by then. It's like, come on. That is absolutely just not true, especially if you take really good care of yourself. It's just not the truth.
Right.
So I think we need to tell people the truth, but also be aware that we need to kind of look at other things that are going on, because so many of my patients start feeling so much better, and they haven't changed their age.
Right. And you say that in 30 days, you can actually begin to reverse the symptoms of this.
Absolutely.
And get better. Okay. But you have created 3 different profiles. We have the racehorse, which is what I am. I'm glad I'm a racehorse at least, and not a flatliner.
I know.
You have the racehorse, the workhorse, and the flatliner. So just quickly tell us what the difference is between those 3 things.
The racehorse is the person who oftentimes has high cortisol levels, but the problem is that those high cortisol levels ultimately lead to low cortisol levels in the long term. But cortisol is an inflammatory hormone. So what happens then is that if it's high for too long, you also start having health consequences with that. And they oftentimes don't sleep well or don't even need that much sleep because they feel wired all the time.
Uh-huh.
Then you have the person that's what I call a workhorse, that's tired in the morning, needs to have that cup of coffee, and then they can't get to sleep at night. And they also have health consequences as well. And then you have the poor person who's what we call the flatliner, that's just exhausted all the time. No matter what they do, no matter how much sleep they get, they just don't feel rested at any time.
These are the people that go on vacation and come back and say, I'm just exhausted.
Exactly. And the hard part is when we begin to make lifestyle changes, and I say this also for the people that are the workhorses, I need them to sleep 7 to 8 hours a night. And this is not about having a trophy for how little sleep you've had. It's really more about understand that there are long-term consequences if we don't take care of ourselves.
Okay, so if doctors are not really diagnosing this, and you say a lot of doctors prescribe antidepressants?
They do.
Why?
Well, because I think, we have a crazy medical system now, and the system is set up in such a way that you can only really, if you kind of do your day, it's a 7-minute appointment.
Yes.
And in 7 minutes, it's impossible to really kind of get the story, well, I'm taking care of my mom, my job isn't going really well, my mother's really sick, I have a son that has ADD, I have this, I have that, I have this, and you're trying to put all the pieces together. You can't do that. It's really much more symptom-oriented, and let's come up with a diagnosis, and let's come up with a quick treatment. Well, in 7 minutes, you're going to have to do that kind of interview. You can't get to the root of what's going on in one's life, and that's really how I practice, which is I need much more time to find out what's really going on. And the caregiving role that so many women find themselves in is a huge burden to them, and it also has the health consequences because the body feels as though it's under assault all the time.
Right.
And what then it does is it starts to get protective, protects itself, so calories in, calories out doesn't work anymore, and people start gaining weight irrespectively. They have their get up and go is get up and gone. They have no sex drive. It's like sex is the last thing on the horizon for them to even be thinking about.
Right.
And they're tired.
So what kind of a doctor or alternative doc should we see? Who should we see about this?
Well,
I mean, we can get your book, which is great, but I mean, some people listening are going to be like, well, I need to see a doctor.
Exactly. Who do I see? Well, the good news is that many naturopaths, homeopaths are interested in this. Integrative, docs, MD, DOs.
Can you explain what integrative medicine is? Because I'm not sure everybody understands
it. The whole concept of integrative medicine is that, and I'm trained that way. So, my background is I went to, I became a nurse practitioner, and I'm actually double certified as an OBGYN pediatric nurse practitioner. And my training was through a program at Harvard Med and Boston College. So I got very grounded in the nuts and bolts of what the medical scientific world is talking about. Then I'm also very versed and have spent the last 25 years immersing myself in the literature of what we know about homeopathy, what we know about, herbs, what we know about nutrients. So I've combined those, and that's what we call integrative medicine. It's really integrating both worlds.
Right.
If I have an acute heart attack, I'm not interested in taking herbs to quiet my inflammation. I want somebody that can intervene immediately.
Right.
Okay? On the other hand, if I have a chronic problem, and that's where I find that the medical system that we have now is so poor at its ability to be able to take care of people. With chronic illnesses and chronic diseases, we need lifestyle interventions.
Right.
We need nutrient interventions, and we need to look at how people live their lives because that's the crux of what's getting them oftentimes into trouble.
Right. Okay, so I just want to know, do men suffer from adrenal fatigue?
They do.
And do they have the same symptoms?
They do have the same symptoms. The reality is I don't see men in my practice,
right.
So I can't speak to the degree to which it's there. But I promise you, it's not at all unusual. We know the statistics are pretty compelling for men that work and then retire and then have a heart attack or get the big beer bellies, we call that, or the big guts.
Yes.
Those are all marked symptoms that are related to people that are oftentimes not taking care of themselves. However, what's so interesting is that women much, much more often have that kind of innate desire to take care of everyone but themselves.
Right. I think men are way better at taking care of themselves.
They are so much better.
They just go, I'm not doing this anymore.
Absolutely. That's your job.
We need to take a lesson from them.
Absolutely.
I think there's this interesting psychology, and unfortunately we're going to have to take a quick break here, but that women have that, somehow if you can solve every problem in the world, people are going to view you better. Do you find that?
I do find that, and the problem is that, and that's what I talk about in my book too. I think a lot of it also comes from the
Marcel, I gotta
women.
go. Let's pick this up on the other side of the break. Stay with us. You're listening to the Cindy Laverty Show. I'll be right back.